Welcome to Suffolk Matters, where all of Suffolk County meets the men and women of Suffolk AME. News, opinions, and insights you won't hear anywhere else. Here's your host, the president of New York's largest independent union, Suffolk AME's Dan Levler.
Welcome to another edition of Suffolk Matters on Walk 97.5 and 94.3 The Shark, where Suffolk County meets the men and women of Suffolk AME. News and views you can't hear anywhere else. So my guest this morning is Mattera, business agent of the United Association of Plumbers, Fitters, Welders, and Service Technicians, Local 200, and also a candidate for the New York State Senate 2nd District. Good morning, Mario.
Good morning. Good morning to everybody. AME, I thank you guys. I care about our AME workforce that protect us every day. And I thank you, Dan, for being such a great union leader.
Listen, I really appreciate that, Mario. You know, you and I have had numerous conversations throughout the years. You know, Local 200 does a lot of work with, government programs, and our members are out there, your members and my members together. So working through some of those issues, it's been a fantastic working relationship. And I know my members appreciate when your members are on the job.
Absolutely. You know, having 1,300 members and their families, I'm a business agent organizer. I organize the unorganized. And when you give plumbing, how can I put it, people in the plumbing industry a chance to actually get educated properly, going to a training facility and making sure, the plumber protects the health of the nation. And you know what? All the building trades and AME unions, we make sure we protect the workers for the future. So it's called preventive maintenance in my eyes. In other words, a lot of things could happen. But, when you sit there and you organize the unorganized and give a person a decent wage, a decent health care, and a decent pension for their future, there is no better high in my life for what I have done in my close to 20 years as a business agent, but close to 40 years as a union member. And my father, may he rest in peace, was a non-union worker, and he was exploited back in the day, back in the early 70s. And my father went, because he was working at the VA hospital, and he went, and a business rep came up to him, and he found out that he wasn't getting paid the prevailing wage, and the boss was pocketing the money. My father quit and went with the union. And, thank God, because there's my mom. She has my dad's, part of my dad's pension, and so she could live. My mom could have live for her future. And it's just so important that we need to make sure we protect our elders. And I always will be there, and everybody has to realize how important this is. Because you know what? It's very expensive to live here on Long Island.
It really is. It really is. And you get to the heart of why there are unions in the first place, which is that path to the middle class. You being able to do what it is you do for the benefit of other people. You're not just working a job. You're, benefiting the country, through your neighborhood, through your community. But it is the betterment of the whole country. When you talk about plumbers protecting the health and safety of the nation, that's very true. It is all of the harmful bacteria and the disease that could be a part of everyday life, and you see this in third world nations. We don't have that because of the work that plumbers do. So taking a plumber and saying, hey, you can get a fair wage, and we can train you how to do this job, not only as good as you do now, but the best in the nation, that path to the middle class is really, that's what built Long Island. That's what built New York. That's what built, this country.
And you know what's happening right now, unprecedented times with the COVID-19. We're an essential workforce, just like with the AME workers. And what we've done, could be put themselves and their families in a compromised position. And sitting there, and right away we continued working. We made sure that we were there to make sure that we were there with our going to people's homes and making sure that people had hot water. Think about something now with cleanliness. We need to make sure that people are washing. We need to make sure people definitely are wearing their masks. We were telling our members, sending blasts out, please be safe. Please make sure you wear your mask. Please wash your hands. So you know what? We're in times that we all need to be educated. We had to get educated very fast. I'm very proud of everybody, how they're handling things, but we need to get back on track. The schools, we need to get our children back to school. We need to, our educators are doing an amazing job. We don't want anything to happen to them, of course. So, but again, parents need to make sure their children, before they go to school, that they're checking their temperature, they're checking if they make sure they don't have any kind of, fever, any kind of sickness, to make sure that they stay home so they don't compromise everybody else in the school, so we can move forward. But we need to get back to full-time school. Smithtown, I just heard today, I'm very excited that the elementary is going to be going back next Tuesday full-time. And again, I really feel everybody is educated, but everybody's educated because of the workforce that we have out there, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, and so much to talk about in what you've just said. First and foremost, there is no bravery without fear, and to know COVID is to fear COVID, and we've been well educated in the state of New York about the effects that COVID could have on someone. So the workforce here on Long Island, across the state of New York, going in and doing their job while still facing the same risks we all know that we face with this, with this illness. That's bravery. And so the bravery of the workforce here in Suffolk County, across the state of New York, that's been a testament to what it is to be a New Yorker. But you touched on, an element of personal responsibility. If you're sick and you're sick, don't go to work. If your kid's sick, they're sick, don't send them to school. You've got to look out for yourselves and your community, the people around you. And so you have a personal responsibility to those around you. The question posed, am I my brother's keeper? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You are responsible for yourself, but your behavior impacts other people as well. And so, take care, take the precautions.
Dan, you were so right. And, the reason why I brought that up is, and I, been going out, speaking to people, and everybody talking about the school opening like that, we have to be responsible for our families, our children, and to make sure that we care about other people. Because, you know as well as I know, back in the day, before COVID, parents would go, the kid had a sniffle, my child had a little sniffle and this and that, but, we're going to send them to school anyways because, yes, people have to put food on the table. I get it. But again, we're in such unprecedented, charted waters right now that we all need to make sure we take care of everybody, not just of themselves. Everybody needs to be taken care of in this very hard times right now.
And you could see why unions fought so hard for so many years, and now it's commonplace. But there didn't used to be sick time, and it was very important for unions in that fight to get managers to realize, listen, you bring a worker in that's sick. If they could put food on the table and stay home for the day because they're sick, they're not going to get everyone else sick, and your productivity isn't going to drop. But this impact is even greater now when you look at something like COVID. When you bring something like that in, let's say you're irresponsible and send your child to school because you make that decision for whatever reason. If they get another person sick, another kid sick, there could be, within their family circle and in their community, people that are high risk to catching this disease. And you could be directly responsible without realizing it that, you've caused a lot of harm in your community.
And with our school teachers, our educators.
Yes.
They are so important to us. And I'm so proud of NYSET, all the workers, all the teachers for what they're doing. And they want to get back to school. They really do. They understand how important it is for our future, for our children. This is the worst thing for our children to stay at home, and they're going to be doing a virtual. It's terrible. I see it with my daughter. You can see she's not motivated as much. And you know what? We have to get them up early, in the morning. Let's go to school. 2 days and 3 days is this. You can see that she's not happy. It's a senior year. She's the head captain of the kick line with Smithtown East. And that's going to be held out, till January. But it's more important that we go back with school than sports. I mean, of course, I love sports, but we need to get everybody back. We need to get our children back into a regiment, and that's important to me.
Listen, school educates the future workforce and the future leaders of this country. The investments that we put into children today, pay back tenfold in the future. But again, at the end of the day, safe and responsible methods for doing so are very important. But you make an excellent point. How engaged are the students when they're sitting in front of a screen? I don't know about you, but I have had numerous meetings. The only way you could take the meetings were through, these electronic methods. So you sign in on your computer and you're staring at a screen with 50 other faces staring back at you, and you end up becoming more concerned about, what's in the background of so-and-so's house. And for kids, like, you hear examples of, parents just going about their life in the background, and they may be on the phone using let's call it adult language, and and then the kids get an education they weren't expecting, and in addition to that, just staying engaged in the subject matter. When you're physically in the room and everybody in the room is doing the same thing, behaviorally you tend to match that. But when you're in an outside environment where things are happening differently, how engaged are you? We know on a business level, how many people who have complained about these virtual meetings and how they don't have the same effect. Same goes for education.
Yeah, and I feel that the teachers, there's too much pressure on the teachers too, because they're juggling, and we don't need our teachers to have that much. They have 30 plus kids in classes, and you know what? That's putting too much pressure on our educators. So again, I'm praying that we're not going to have an outbreak. I'm praying that everybody understands. Make sure you stay home if your child has a sniffle. Make sure that, in other words, your cleanliness is so important, and you wear your mask. Because I'll be honest with you, I feel that these masks do work. I really, really do. I think it's very, very important. You got to see, even myself the other night, I'm at an event, and for me to go sneeze, I held that sneeze in.
Right.
I'm telling you,
your eyes are bulging.
Thank you. And you know what? I think everybody feels the same way, because if you sneeze, everybody's going to be looking at you. But you know what? That makes a difference. And, I'll get up, walk outside if I have to sneeze, or if I even have to cough because I have, something that I have to cough about.
Yeah. You get a little tickle in your throat. Everything's fine. You're healthy, but everyone looks at you like, what just happened?
Yeah, and Plumbers Local 200, we have those pedestals before you walk into the union hall. You have to get your temperature is taken before you walk into this union hall.
Yep. No, that's safe and responsible.
Yes.
So throughout all of what we've discussed so far, I think we've touched on a pretty good reason. But I'd like to just put it in your words. What motivated you to get involved in your union and seek a leadership position within it?
Okay, what really motivated me, and I just told you the story about my dad. My dad, I'll never forget it, when my dad, was organized, and I'll never forget this. And my dad being a non-union in world, and then becoming into the union world, and then he got involved to help with things, which he was very proud to be a union member. And I got into the apprenticeship program back in 1981, and right away I got involved if they needed any help with anything, with the buildings, with setting up, with picket lines, with going to union meetings and listening to what the union representatives had to say. So I just continued that all the way till 1993, when I was asked to be sentry, which is the door, making sure everybody was showing their union cards before they came into a union meeting. And just getting involved was so important, because you know what? I knew sooner or later that I'm going to be retiring. I knew it was going to be years from now that I'm going to have something for my future. And when you work hard for your future. And then being involved, you got noticed. Getting noticed was to be an officer of the local, and then it was running for office back then. It still is that way.
Right.
So, it became the Century, then went from Century to the examining board, which is examining the new apprentices that would be coming into the apprenticeship program. I wish we could have more with the Department of Labor. We're only allowed to take in 25 apprentices per year, and we have close to 600 applicants.
Right.
We do have our B division. We have three different divisions with Plumbers Local 200. We have our pump and tank, which is the gas station work. We have our B division, which is the housing, service, and light commercial. And then we have our A work, which is our public works, anything with town, federal, county, state work. And then the supermarket work, the hospitals, that would be our A division, all the big construction box stores also. So, when you get involved, and you sit there as an organizer too, and you care about people. If you do not care about people and you just care about yourself, then you don't be in these positions like yourself. You have a heart. You care about the workforce. You care about speaking on behalf of members that don't have it in them to speak up. They need someone to speak up for them. There's certain people that are A personality that will speak up, but then you have a B personality that really needs somebody to help them with that, to make sure they have a good living here and for their futures. So it meant a lot to me. And then dealing with the developers, which want to make sure they get their job done cheap as possible, but then realize that, when you have the most educated, productive workforce, just give us a chance to bid on work. So I went and made sure that I had a great rapport with developers, which I have a great rapport with a lot of developers on Long Island, especially like a developer like TriTech.
Right.
You couldn't get a better developer that has an open door policy that gives you a chance to bid on their work. And we'll sit there and try to work with you even with last look. But getting involved to get your membership, strength with numbers wins, Dan.
Yes.
And, having your membership go out and go to town board meetings, speak up on the right projects, not projects just anywhere. We want the projects that are going to bring in proper growth and that are going to be here, stay here, that have our young, our middle-aged, and our seniors to stay here. Now, you have projects just like Patchogue Village. We spoke about this, you and I.
Sure.
Mayor Pontieri did an amazing job bringing the infrastructure in. Then what he did was he made sure that it was a town that was in dire straits, became very vibrant because of, look at Patchogue Village, Village Way.
Sure.
Okay? Great project. People are there. You have the young, middle-aged, and seniors that live there. And, the seniors, they're at the point in their lives, they're like, you know what, I don't want to do any more maintenance on my home. I don't want to cut the grass anymore. You know what I want to do? I want to go, leave my apartment, go down to a beautiful, vibrant village, go down, go get my cup of coffee, read my paper, go for a nice walk with my wife, and you know what? And not have to worry about, the roof. Don't have to worry about, anything in their home falling apart and cutting the grass. And you know what? It's so important that we keep everybody here. You always say to keep our young here. No, we got to keep our young, middle-aged, and our seniors here.
Sure.
So getting back to me, I work with my 86 signatories because without our contractors, we don't go to work. So you have a relationship, and it's called compromise. And I've been that way my whole life and my whole career, and it's worked. Working with elected officials that, I always go like this. There's politicians and elected officials. Politicians get nothing done, and elected officials do. And one thing about us, we back the people that are going to help labor and that are going to help bring in revenue into our area and make sure it's local jobs for local people. And that's what I'll always fight for.
Yeah, and that speaks to the heart of what labor unions are, right? So we don't just look at, can we get a job? So like the building trades, hey, can we build something? They want to know what they're building. They want to know why they're building it. And they want to know how that's going to strengthen their community. And they fight for fair labor practices in so many ways. We just talked on sick leave, being able to have, days off of work when you're sick. And why that's so right. Labor unions fought for that and created it so that now it's essentially a norm. But it is that rising tide that lifts all boats. Labor unions are very much concerned about their members, but they're concerned about all workers. They want the working class standard to be as high as possible. They want the middle class to thrive. And that's something that you've been a champion throughout your time as a labor leader. You've been a champion of, and I suspect will carry right into your New York Senate spot. And as I bring that up, how is the campaign going?
It's been overwhelming, the response. How many people are calling me up? One thing I'm proud about is, lawn signs don't win elections, but you know what the best part about it is? People want to put my lawn sign on their lawns. So when you see people putting lawn signs all over the place and they're going, not getting permission, is one thing. But when you see Mario Mattera's lawn signs, you see them on people's properties that, please send me your lawn sign. I want it on my lawn. You know what? I get chills just thinking about the overwhelming response. I had my fundraiser, and my AME was there.
Yes.
I love it. And all I could just tell you is, if you saw the response from our labor leaders, and developers were there. It was very diverse. And when you saw, general contractors, people from all sorts of life, from all parts of life were
Right.
there. And I was just so proud to see that there. And it just meant a lot. Even the speakers that got up and spoke about me, which, I don't want that. That's not what I'm about. But it felt really, heartwarming, the response and the reception that I received. And, people want me to make sure that I'm going to run for the 2nd Senate District for New York State and be a voice. And you know what, Dan? We need to make sure we utilize our strength with numbers with our memberships, all memberships.
Yes.
What's happening with our men and women in blue, our New York State uniform officers, is a disgrace. It is a disgrace. We spoke about this already, and I always will. I'm taking this to heart, what is happening. It's just so wrong what is happening. We're all upset what happened to George Floyd, but you know what? That doesn't mean our New York State uniform officers are being punished for something that happened out of state. And we need to move forward. We need to protect our union brothers and sisters in blue.
Yeah, so my guest this morning is Mario Mattera. If you're just tuning in, he's a business agent for the United Association of Plumbers, Fitters, Welders, and Service Technicians, Local 200, and also a candidate for New York State Senate. But Mario, I got to say, when people talk about the concept of defunding the police, just here in Suffolk County, you've got about 1,000 civilians, my members, that work in conjunction with or at physically at the police department, making sure that all the wheels are moving and everything is being done. And when you talk about defunding police, I'm pretty sure you're not thinking 911 dispatchers. You want to be able to pick up that phone and get somebody on the line and get somebody out to help you when you're in a moment of crisis. You don't want to defund them. You're not talking crossing guards. You're not talking about the people in the back office that get all of the paperwork processed for criminal proceedings, whether no matter what side you're on, all of this work has to happen, and the police officers have to do their job, which, again, Suffolk County is not like some of these other areas that we hear about where they're having this community conflict. They're very, amazingly well-trained, very professional responders. And, as much as I don't like to comment on maybe someone else's union in a way, it's not my place to. I could speak, for my members. But, my firsthand experience is, the police worker, whether they're civilian or our uniformed sworn officers, have been amazing throughout my career, throughout my experience.
And, what are we going to do? Look what's happening in the city 50 miles away. It's a disgrace. Frozen water bottles thrown. Who knows what else is thrown at them? Liquid. We have no idea what that is. To go sit there and defund $1.5 billion and then to put social workers in harm's way, I just don't understand the theory. First of all, how is a social worker, that's wrong. You're putting them in a compromised, harm's way. How are they qualified to go into a domestic dispute?
Mario, my social workers at AME would need a uniformed police officer with them to do that job, because there are aspects that they may understand and be able to handle and have been trained for, but the potential physical conflicts that could come out of people being in these heightened emotional states requires a trained officer.
Absolutely, and I don't want to see that, and not for anything with this $20 million defunding in Suffolk County. I just cannot believe we're hearing this. One thing about, Congressman Zeldin, he's not that he's just a friend of mine, but he's somebody that cares about Long Island. And this is me looking at the person. Forget what party you're in. Forget you're an R, you're a C, you're an I, you're a D. I forget it. My R stands for realist with everything that I do. Okay? My point is $257 million came in with the CARES Act money, okay? Well, I want to see how this money is going to be allocated. There we are talking about a $20 million defunding of the police. And what are we doing? Right now, we need our law enforcement more than ever for what is happening. what's happening with protesting. We need to make sure we're protected. Right in Smithtown, the social media, I don't have to tell you about social media, what they're doing.
Yeah.
My children, they were nervous. They were crying. Dad, look what's happening. There it is, the fire. They're coming. People are going to be coming to our house and coming in and invading our home and our privacy. I said, don't worry. Our trained law enforcement will be there, Suffolk County Police, the sheriffs, even Nessequag, the village police. They will be there to protect us. Trust me what I'm saying. And they did an amazing job to protect all of us. Nassau, Suffolk did an amazing job. The city is trying to do what they have to do, but they're frightened to even do their job. Is this what we're at? In other words, without law and order, what do we have, Dan?
Right.
We're in trouble. Society is in trouble.
And that's why we have rules for what peaceful protests can be, And I don't see anywhere in the rules that you can start attacking the police. Yeah, and so much of what we're talking about here as relates to the budget really comes down to work that folks like you and I do and our members do. When all is said and done and the budget is finally released for the Suffolk County Legislature to review, they're going to have to go through that line by line and figure out, what are we going to do? Here's the proposal from the executive branch. What are we going to pass? What are we going to say we are or aren't doing? And there's going to be a lot of work for folks like yourself, myself, other labor leaders out there to say we've got to keep certain priorities in place. I mean, mandated services that are mandated by the state that the county must provide have to be preserved. They have to be preserved. And to say, listen, we simply don't have the money. I understand that, that COVID happened and that had a very real impact. And that's why, it's very important for us, specifically when I talk about AME, we really need to know that the feds aren't just telling us, yeah, we'll get to it. They've got to get it done. They've got to get it done. It is not anyone, I don't think anyone on either side is really trying to make the case of, hey, we need money to help us out with COVID, but we want extra money to help us with whatever our situation was pre-COVID. This is COVID focused. This is keeping the world running. Yeah. And so this very busy, months ahead, really just trying to work through this particular issue. But an aspect of all of that, right? So we have the fiscal impact this year, and there's big work to be done there. But going forward, making sure that this economy recovers. And I know we've had these conversations for years, long before we were even in this situation. But infrastructure, building, doing these large public works projects. I mean, public works as a concept was created in a down economy to put people to work using public dollars to stimulate the economy, paying people fair wages so that they could put that money back into the communities that they were a part of, not from out of state, not from out of the country, local jobs, improving the quality of life in our localities. And I really think that, as our time winds down, we should at least get your position. I know as a labor leader, but also as someone hoping to represent the 2nd Senate District. What's your feelings on the future of infrastructure and helping to pull our localities and our country out of the future financial effects of what COVID brought? Yes.
So we need to bring in tax revenue the right way by bringing in the proper growth. I sit on Suffolk County. I'm one of the board members on Suffolk County Water Authority, which we make sure that we supply to our customers the best, cleanest, finest water quality. Just to give you a heads up, I mean, we have to be regulated right now. Obviously, we are regulated 50 parts per billion. Now, the state came up with 1 parts per billion to make sure for clean, safe drinking water, okay, which is amazing, which I'm very excited about. But to do that, we have to make sure the infrastructure is put in place. And we came up with a surcharge, which we had to. We still are the lowest rates in the whole state of New York and pretty much in the country with our water rates.
Right.
Yes, we do have a conservation rate, which we had to with a tier rate, but that's people to make sure. I know we love our trophy lawns, but guess what? We need to make sure that we, conserve, with conservation with our water supply. So infrastructure is key. You and I had numerous talks on making sure that we have the state-of-the-art sewage treatment plants, just like Riverhead. Riverhead is one of the only plant that has a microbiological reactor that takes out all the nitrogen out of the discharge water.
Lower than drinking water standards. The
Amazing.
discharge water is actually nitrate-wise safer than drinking water.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
So we irrigate the Indian Hills Golf Course for Suffolk County. So that during the summer, but then then obviously in the winter, then it bothers me that it discharges and it'll go into the Peconic. But I really feel in the future we need to recognize how important it is that we replenish our aquifers.
That's the point I did want to get to with you as we're winding down on time. We've got to make sure the water coming out of the ground is as best as possible, but we've got to make sure that we're discharging safely back into those aquifers. It's a sole source aquifer, right? If anything were to happen to our drinking supply, it would be devastating for the region. This is, sewage treatment is vital to keeping Suffolk County, Nassau County alive and booming. It is a beautiful place to live, to work, to visit. And we have to preserve that. And so making sure that we're pulling water out of the ground and distributing that in the safest, best possible way is also tied directly to making sure that the water that goes back into the ground is as safe as you're talking about. And I think that the Riverhead plant is a great example.
Yes, and that's what I always want to work on because not for anything, we're only 30% sewer, a little over 30% sewer here in Suffolk, and we do not need to be the situation what's happening in Nassau County. Nassau County, look what's happening. Where actually Suffolk County Water Authority is being looked at to help Nassau County out. So, but right now we need to make sure we focus on infrastructure. Even with the storm, just what happened with this storm that we just had, we need to look at underground wiring to make sure we're not constantly just fixing all the problems with above ground. We're in the dark ages with that. That's
right.
We need to focus on fixing that because these storms are getting worse and worse as we go along in our time. So we need to really, really focus on the proper infrastructure, our roads. But again, sitting there with Hauppauge Industrial Park is very important to me. That is in my district. We have the largest industrial park in the whole country, that we have the infrastructure put in place to bring in talent, to make sure that we're the pioneer pharmaceutical of New York State and even the country, to make sure we're self-sufficient and self-reliant and not rely on other countries.
And those are jobs. Those are jobs.
Those are good-paying jobs.
Yes.
So I was at a meeting the other day with Supervisor Wareheim, Assemblyman Fitzpatrick. Libby was there with Mitch Pally, and Terry Alessi did a great job with the park to promote it, and I'm going to do whatever I have to do to promote that park for good-paying jobs. And you know what? That's how you bring in revenue. So we have that. We have the Kings Park property that you want to make sure that the people, the civic groups, the chambers are involved to make sure that property is proposed properly with the town of Smithtown. And we have Stony Brook, one of the largest in my district, one of the largest employers that employ people in Suffolk County and New York State. So I want to make sure I promote these areas to make sure we have the proper growth and bring in and keep our young here and our middle age and our seniors, but to keep and get the qualified workforce for our future.
Mario, I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you in advance for, just knowing the guy that you are, knowing that your future will not ever lend you to be a politician. You will always be an elected representative, whether that's in your local or in servicing the needs of Senate District 2. So I want to thank you for taking the time out this morning just to speak to us and get us caught up on all the various things that you and I have been talking about offline.
And I just want to thank you for always being a friend and being a great union leader and caring about your membership. But also I want to thank all the 6,000 active and the 4,000 retirees, if I'm saying this right, from AME.
Sure.
From the DPW, Consumers Affairs, Real Estate, Women's Services, Social Services, our nurses, healthcare workers, the clerical workers, Budget Review Office, County Clerk, the 9/11 dispatch, how important that is, what they're going to be going through. And again, they do an amazing job, how they keep their composure. I love them.
Yes.
Parks Department. I am, in the jails. I'm here. I will always be here for the hardworking men and women of labor.
Mario, I appreciate it. And to our listeners, we'll speak to you next week.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you.